Hey guys, welcome to Serious Laughs. This is episode 20. Gifts from the Other Side. The insights and wisdom of energy worker MASATI.
Does energy work truly have the power to transform our lives?
Hey you guys, I'm a mom who doubts herself daily.
Hi guys, I'm Sheri. Who am I? A regular meditator and spiritual seeker.
Referring to her notes. We also have Rachel Ann Roberts on the show today. I'm so excited about this episode. There's just so much to cover. And I'm going to say straight from the punch that I could research the two of you for hours and I still wouldn't feel prepared enough for this podcast. So I'm going to be the village idiot here and ask the questions, that you might think, okay, that's a little strange, but I'm not afraid to ask them. And I'm going to turn it over to Sheri so she can introduce you both.
I love your authenticity, Molly, and I'm right there with you. I mean, we know on a perfunctory level, Rachel Roberts, you have your own humorous talk show, Coffee Talk, and MASATI. I feel like I don't even know where to begin. You have the XI code. You had 3 NDEs, the acronym, everyone, near-death experiences, and you came back with these spiritual intuitions or healing abilities. Again, like Molly, I feel like, okay, it's so much to take in. I looked at your website. We both looked at your website, and I'm like, you know what? We're going to let them run the show. So
yeah,
this all began when Rachel and I were talking about, I don't know, a few weeks ago. And she said, oh my God, this guy, MASATI. MASATI. Okay. And no disrespect to your name. I never heard MASATI. It's so exotic.
Thank you.
So this guy, MASATI, he did this amazing thing. You're just going to have to see it. And I thought, Molly, we need to have MASATI and Rachel on. And so I would love to hear from both of you what transpired during your Coffee Talk show, Rachel, from your perspective, MASATI, from your perspective, Rachel. Tell us, what was this major transformative experience?
Okay. MASATI, you want me to go first or do you want to?
Yeah, why don't you go first?
So I met MASATI on Jeremy's podcast, actually. Jeremy has a friend of ours, and it's Mindful Mutiny, Jeremy Van Wert. And he asked me as a friend to be on his podcast because he had this amazing guy, MASATI, who was going to do readings on people. And the night that it was happening was the same night that I have Movie Reviews and More, which is another podcast that I've been co-hosting for years. And so I was tired, and it was after the podcast, and I was having a drink, and I had not done my homework on MASATI. I didn't know what it was going to be. And I think that's really what I look back on that was so beautiful, was that I had no expectations. And a lot of times with MASATI, he's got millions of people that follow and look at him, as this amazing healer, but I had no idea who he was. And so I didn't expect anything. I was just doing a favor for a friend. So and it didn't last very long. It was, and he did a reading on me, which, I'd already been drinking a bourbon, and I was half-assed paying attention. And it was like, he asked me questions, I answered. And then in between, he would say, take a breath. And then he would do this counting thing, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then he would, say, exhale. And then, like he'd ask me another question, and some of it was like, I didn't know that, but other things were just like, I don't know. But that was it. And I recognized that I started to feel more relaxed, and I thought maybe it was just the breathing in and out. But the next day, Jeremy told me that there's like a chat thing on the side, and there were all these people that were watching, like hundreds of people that were watching the show, and they were able to chat with each other in this little private chat. And they would say, wow, she's attractive. Like when I went on, and then they were like in the middle of it, they said, look at that. You can tell that she's getting relaxed and looks even prettier. And then he said, Rachel, by the end of the show, they said, you look like a child. And that is how I want to describe the next day, how I felt. And so I, at the time, I guess, a lot of people could relate to this, but when COVID started, my casual drinking with friends had become a little bit more excessive. And I want to say, and I don't want to say that I was like, an alcoholic or anything, but I was at a point where I wanted to stop, and it was challenging when I tried. And the next day when I got up, I felt really clear, and nobody told me that I would feel anything. And I didn't know it was because of the reading with MASATI. I just knew when I woke up, I felt something very special. And, throughout the day, it was just an incredible experience. And I felt on this different vibration where everything felt so good that I didn't want to have a drink that day. And I don't know, it took me into a whole nother, and I figured out that there was nothing that I had done except for this meeting with MASATI. And that is how I became friends with MASATI, is through this. I reached out to him and I said, oh my God, what did you do? And I was like, did you like clean out some kind of chakra? And he was like, I reset you. I didn't, but we never talked about the drinking. It was never a thing. It was just something that I was able to do without any withdrawals or any kind of cravings. I just felt so clear and good. And, it's nice. So yeah. And I will forever be thankful to MASATI and meeting you and your beautiful wife when you came here to Houston, and making friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's beautiful, Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. MASATI, how is that for you, hearing Rachel's story?
Actually, it's actually quite humbling, but that's not an extreme example. There's a lot of people who, just get off, being addicted to a lot of things, whatever it is, self-abuse patterns, addictions. There's a lot of people who heal themselves of, the craziest diseases that they thought they could, never overcome, or, they have these kids that they might be like suicidal or ADD or ADHD, and they say transform within, say, gosh, Rachel, I worked on you probably maybe for like 5 minutes, 10.
Wow.
Yeah. And this goes beyond, the mental states. Obviously, it goes beyond the capacity of, mental states, mindsets, consciousness, and, visualization and all that. It goes into altered states, you get into like, say, psychedelic realms and so on. But it gets into, say, the quantum realm, where your essence or your spirit, Sheri, you would think of it as your spirit or your presence that encapsulates you. So when you start to, like, I would say, edit people, because I'm a computer programmer by trade. Until after I had my near-death experiences, now I just program people and optimize. Literally that. So there is a coding, and that coding is at your super intelligence. The super intelligence is, the blueprint of who or what created you before you even had a brain, or before you were even a single cell. There was a consciousness or a blueprint or a program that created or dictated how you were going to grow up. The hairstyle, the color, the color of your skin, your culture, and all that thing that was pre-programmed somewhere in, say, the multiverse, in the multidimensional realm. So through the near-death experiences, I've been able to access that realm and go, oh, this is where your programming is, say, messed up a little bit, or it's got some bugs. Let's clean it up. And then this is where, like, instantaneous changes can happen radically fast, actually. something that might take like 10, 20, 30 years might just literally take like maybe 5 or 10 minutes at most times. It's pretty crazy stuff.
Do you know why, when you went into your NDE experience, what would be the reason behind us having these bugs? I mean,
oh, sure. Because of free will. Free will is I don't know, kind of a bitch sometimes, because because it's like we're not guided, we're not taken care of. It's like we're just left alone to understand this reality, and there's a reason for it. There's a purpose for it. But in nature, for example, every generation gets created, and before the next generation gets created, it actually say the logic or the programming is that, hey, let's take a look at what happened here, what transpired, kind of like looking into a black box. What went wrong, what went right, and then let's fix it before we create the next version of the next generation. So like animals and all that stuff, planetary systems, they follow that like logic, the quantum mechanics, right, of this world. Humans, unfortunately, have free will, so they choose to not get better the next generation. They just like, well, shit, I'll have what mom's having, or what dad's having. And then we just pull all that, not just say the propensity of, your eyes or, the skin tone, but the abuse patterns that they had, the distortions that they had, the type of relationships that they had, the value of money, the systems and so on like that. We just pull everything over, but it's not just the habits. We pull in their stories, so we store, like, I can tap into anybody and read your story and read your grandparents' story through your genetics, literally. It sounds crazy, but all that is stored in your, say, genetics or frequency genetics, which dictates your DNA. And this is where people go, why can't I, I'm so frustrated, and I might be talking about you, Molly, if you don't mind me, just sometimes people, there's always this frustration of like, why can't I just go beyond? There's always something that's holding us back. And no matter what we've tried in the past, there's always something holding us back. Right. So that's a pattern that people run. And that basically comes from your grandma. But you release that, and then
Sorry.
And you've been running like that pattern all your life. But there's people, that think that their issues are caused by their circumstances of this physical world. So the effect is they work on the effect. It's kind of like working on the reflection of in the mirror. You're trying to fix the reflection in the mirror, but the cause is back here, and it caused again, like you said, Sheri, generations back. Started back here. You're trying to fix the effect, and it just doesn't work.
I had this question, just kind of bouncing off this. Is a reset a one-time thing?
It usually is. It's a one-time thing for most, but then, for like Rachel, for example, it's like, okay, I'm free. I don't have to drink anymore. Now what do I do? So, so in this scenario,
you do it. I think you have to keep up with the work to answer your question. I mean, during the holidays, I might have had one or two, and I need to probably do another session with MASATI to get another reset. But I went without even having anything, and I think that lasted for over a month. And then then I have one here or there, and I probably need to have another session. But he has ongoing things that he offers, and I think that would, if you did that often, like your the meditation and the courses, that it would then maybe you wouldn't need reset.
Yeah, most people, they go to a seminar or spiritual journeys or whatever, keep fixing themselves throughout their whole life. So, in this case, what we do here, Excellent Metascience, is literally like, well, we fix you, but then it's an ongoing structure to expand who you are.
Yeah.
So it's like fixing yourself, you're fixed.
Mhm.
But then what do you do now? Because it's a whole
Right.
system, it's like your ideas of who you were, like, for example, Rachel, for example, her day was consumed by, alcohol and all that, but then you remove that and it's like, well, what the hell? There was a woman a while back. she was sick for over 30, 40 years of her life. So, and then over, a couple sessions, she was really healthy. And she came back to me and says, like, Sadi, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with my life. Because every day it was about going to the doctors. It's about taking my medicine. It's about, I don't know what to do. So people who have success mechanisms, I mean, they do really, really well, with XI. Because it's like, you take the thing that's been blocking them, and the success mechanisms, that they've learned from like a Tony Robbins or a Joe Dispenza or whoever, that tells them to the direction they need to go. I take off the weight so they can go further and faster.
Oh, cool. And then you provide the tools for them to continue to work on themselves. And that's fascinating.
Yeah. And this is where, you can come up with, say, new technologies, like in, the quantum world, quantum physics, quantum computing, we're getting into that actually. It's like editing, say, quantum computers. That's how powerful the work is. We're all mini quantum computers if you think about it.
This is just a question I was thinking of when I was working out today. I was like, I want to know, okay, you've had 3 near-death experiences. The MASATI that would wake up before you had all the, now, if I understand it correctly, the very first one you have, you were quite young. You were a young man at this point. You were 20?
Yeah, 22, 23. Yeah.
22. Okay. When you would wake up as a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old, compared to how you wake up in the morning now, what's the difference?
Well, the difference is, as a young man, and, the near-death experiences that I had, I was groomed to have them, because there's a lot of people who have near-death experiences, but they don't, very few come up with, like abilities, like Anita Murjani, she cured herself of cancer. People get clairvoyant, or they start speaking different languages like perfectly and so on. So it's like you have to be groomed or set up to have that near death, and then it catapults you into those altered states, like a psychedelic state, but much more intense. So before, I'm waking up, I'm a college kid, I'm going, fuck, this sucks. What sucks? It's like, I see, highly wealthy people, my family was lucky, we saw wealthy people, and it's like, they're not having any fun. They're ill. They're, having chip issues. And I'm going, I'm going to grow up to be that. I don't want that. A lot of young people go through that phase, or, you go to the spiritual realm, or religious realm. I studied, a lot of the religions out there and some of the spiritual aspects back then. And it's like, well, shit, they suck too. Their lives suck, so they want me better. I'm going, I want the real answer. So I was like, it depressed, I, not in a bad way, I guess, but depressed is like, shit, nobody knows the answer. What gives?
At 2021, you were saying that to yourself.
Yeah. Exactly. I didn't want to
That's
take
pretty insightful.
Very insightful. Yeah.
Just didn't want to take the path, of, say, the world. Again, nobody was really happy. You look at the news today, it's the same as the news, like 30, 40 years ago, right? Just different players. Yeah, it's literally the same cycle. So I didn't want to repeat that. So I really wanted to know so bad that it led me to that near-death experience. And then that's where I realized, it's like, oh, shit, that's the potential that we're looking for.
And what was that in the first one? Because I listened to Alex Ferrari and you speak, and it was fascinating that each time you walked with another insight or gift.
The first near death allowed me to understand the potential that we are, the infinite potential. Like, like you, Sheri, you always have this possibilities of what could be, but then again, something like kind of like stops you. You're kind of like looking through the looking glass, the window, but you can never say step into that realm, if that makes sense for you. So I stepped into that realm, and it's like, whoa. This is where I had my jaws crushed in a warehouse accident. That I was hanging by my jaws, and it was a full disconnect of of your consciousness or your spirit and your physical body. When people say physical body, spirit, or consciousness, those things are real. Literally, it's like I was hanging, dangling, and I'm going, what the hell am I doing there if I'm over here? Because I was seeing my physical body in complete form and totally conscious. And that was the key difference too, is like I was totally conscious of the experience. And again, most people aren't conscious in their daily life. Just they're NPCs, non-playable characters.
Yeah, they're not aware that it's a matrix.
Yeah, exactly.
The world we're living in. Yeah.
Even people like Elon Musk, they're NPCs. They're just playing a character, a role, of the tech engineer that's going to save the world. But it's just programs that they run. We're not conscious enough, and so these near deaths allowed us to become conscious, and that's what I do. Help you become conscious, and then you get to remove the patterns, that dictate your life. Pretty.
So then, today, when you woke up, excuse me, so I just bumped my microphone. When you wake up today, it's a whole different vibe, like what Rachel Ann described. When I was reading the article, you see the blade of grass and it's beautiful. I see the sky and it's vibrant. That's how you wake up today, both of you.
Yeah, I mean, tons of people do, and people have morning routines, motivation. There's a great, motivational speaker. He takes like 2-3 hours a day to amp himself up to speak. I wake up.
Joe Dispenza, was that? I listened to him.
Tony
Robbins. Yeah.
And they're fantastic teachers again, but it's like your identity here is broken and it's messed up. You have to amp yourself up to be this identity Rachel was kind of that personality as well, or if you're a mom, for example, I'm this person, but then now I have to be a mom, and now I have to be a wife, and now I have to be this, which is another issue for you, Holly, by the way. Anyway, so that's
like we're all waiting with MASATI with bated breath. Is he gonna call on next?
Just fucking nervous.
It's like you're a spiritual teacher at the back of the classroom,
Well,
not that there's judgment, but
what's really fascinating about that too is you just called me out. These are the things that are going on in the back of my head. You've just said the things that I feel, and I'm like, you're doing that again, Molly, but it's just a habit,
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, do you feel like people know these things in the back of their minds? They know it. And if so, what's getting in the way, or is that not the case?
Some people know it. Some people aren't in tune with it. They just think that's the way life is. I think you knew it as a child, it's like, gosh, mom shouldn't be that way or dad shouldn't be that way, but why are they, and then you start to go, well, they're here, they're experts. They know space and time more than I do because I'm younger. I'm just going to adopt, mom's patterns or, so-and-so's patterns. Does that make sense to you? And then we just recreate. So we lose our say conscious ability to edit ourselves the way I help you do it. And again, it's nothing new. Nature's done that for ever. So 0 to 7 is like your liquid phase, where you're asking a lot of questions, you're observing, and this is where kids ask a lot of questions like, Mom, why is this, why because they have this handbook that goes, you're supposed to do it this way. But then why is society doing it this way? And it's like, I guess I'll do it this way because I don't know how to access this aspect of ourselves. And they fall into that trap. Again, that's where that free will comes in, or lack of free will. But so most people, some people are aware of their habits, but again, they don't know how to release from their patterns because it's like genetically, say, genetically coded within their system, like alcoholism or even like having abortions and so on like that. You know, I worked on this woman, and she had like three abortions. Like, well, you know, and she was really grief stricken about that. But I go, you know, I tapped into her. And I go, you know, just reading her storyline. I go, your mom lost some kids too. It's like, yeah, she did. And then it's like your grandma did too. It's like, yeah, she did. And then your great grandma. You know, you could just keep going on. It's like, so do you see the pattern? You in this reality had to lose kids, no matter if it's an abortion or loss or whatever. It's a pattern that dictates that you have to lose kids. So you eliminate that. And then she's fine with, you know, she healed herself of that situation.
So the pattern dictates from the stories and genetics that are passed down until we become aware.
Yes.
And we also, we enter the quantum field. There's a couple of routes to get to the quantum field, either an NDE, working with you, getting ourselves into a mindset like Joe Dispenza or Tony Robbins. And so that cliche of the power is always in you is actually true.
Yeah, true. But like a Joe Dispenza, Tony Robbins, they work on, say, this physical layer, like half, you know? So, and then what I do is work on the half, the subconscious and the realm beyond your mind, you know, beyond, you know, the concepts of the mind, beyond time and space, your spirit aspect. So for example, you know, like you, Sheri, you see life through your grandmother's eyes. If that makes
Which
sense.
grandmother?
I'm not a psychic in a way. I just sense it's like, oh, it's a maternal type frequency, a feminine frequency that was like really close to you, or might have taken care of you, or you were close to her. So her presence is always around you and like, I guess, helping you or keeping you safe. That makes sense.
Thank you. My paternal grandmother was not the most kind person, so I'm assuming it was the other one.
Probably. Yeah.
Wonderful.
One that protected you from a lot of things. Let's just say, whichever. Okay.
She was young when she passed, so she probably protected me without me not knowing. But thank you. Wow,
I love that.
Yeah. So you know that presence, you know, and you might think, well, that's part of me then, but it's really not. Although it's a beautiful presence around you. For example, this creates a duplicity in the way you see this reality. You see the beauty of things, but then you see the distortion of things, and it's like, well, why can't I? You're kind of like split into two worlds. That makes sense for you. But
you mean I see love through my grandmother's eyes?
Yes.
But then I also see the world through my eyes, which isn't so loving.
Yeah.
So all the goodness of me is my grandmother. Like, I can't take credit.
The goodness of you.
You suck, Sheri. You're lucky you have me.
Yeah. The goodness is still in you. You're still running her programs, but you can merge the two together where you can create the love and beauty that you see, you know, through your grandmother's eyes in this reality. And this is where you become a powerful force, Sheri. Where you activate that love in physical form.
Which we're doing right now with this podcast. We're helping people.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah. Even, you know, listeners, actually, people listening to this, even if it's a recording, people will actually start to like realize things or start to shift just by listening to this podcast.
We can do a little reset, right? MASATI, I've seen you do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. I need a reset. Molly, do you need a reset?
Please be kind. Rewind. Be kind and rewind, baby. Let's go.
I'll take your workshop, your XI. So XI is 11, right? The
XI,
Roman numeral.
exponential intelligence.
What is it? I'm sorry.
Exponential intelligence. Exponential.
Exponential intelligence. It kept cutting out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that means reverse aging, elevating consciousness, and enhancing performance.
Yes.
Wow. Do you want to expand on those amazing qualities? I mean, no need to get Botox for the soul.
Absolutely. Like the frequency spas that we do, people have found that, they age younger, they reverse age because they don't have to age like their parents, for example. We've done tests like telomeres, like my wife. I mean, Rachel, you've seen Fefe. I won't tell her how old she is, but her telomeres are like in her early 20s. So again, clinical or physical results, blood tests, testosterone levels, we're male. I'm 63 myself, yeah. So those things do work for you, and it goes beyond, beyond the physicalness of the world, beyond plastic surgery and all that, because people can look young, but they don't have that essence of youth. That makes sense. Like a lot of movie stars, it's like, yeah, they have great faces because of their plastic surgery, you know what I mean? But their concepts, their cognitive behaviors, and all that, is of an older person. They're going to age like their parents. So in this case, you can have free will to age differently, and it's so powerful that I actually applied for the X Prize, the Google X Prize on rejuvenation and healthy aging. So bring back muscle density for older individuals and so on. So far, it's going really, really well. Test results. So stuff really works. It's the state. And it's just literally by listening. Like Rachel, you've gone through that. You just literally like put on a set of headphones and you listen to me, and I guide you through a deep state of what I call hyper meditations, which is just, it gets you into a deep state, but then it also helps you alter your programming, your genetic coding, basically. And then you change. You have to do to accept the change, but it gives you possibilities.
And when you went through your third ND, that's when you were given the instructions, because in the beginning you were, if I understand correctly from your interview again with Alex Ferrari, you were almost fighting it. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that was the sense I got. There was this reluctance in you, like, okay, I'm a computer programmer. I worked on AI. I'm good. You were the hero's journey. You were resisting the call.
True. Yeah. The second one gave me, my abilities. By the way, we all have these abilities. I'm not any different. I just accessed them. I just know how to. So I help people access their abilities that we all have. The second near death allowed me to understand, say, the mechanics or the science. XI meta science. It's a science of the sciences, literally. So that showed me the logistics, or how to, say, rewire individuals, right? The third near death, that was a little tougher. That was the toughest one because it was a physical issue. The first one, I had my jaws cracked. The second one, I had a drowning. So I recovered really fast. The third one was like, I was in Peru, and my heart just, not my heart, my whole body stopped because I was lacking minerals, probably because of COVID or whatever. But literally my body, my system stopped. There was no electrical function, literally. My minerals were that low. So everything just stopped. So that was the hardest to recover. But through that time, my heart, circulation, and all the genetic diseases of what my family has, I don't. So I think the third near death, was the scariest for me because it's like physical pain, physical torture. You know what I mean? Like for, after that near death, like for 9 months, it's like I'm dying again. You feel like that death because you're releasing so much, say, you're changing so much physically to recreate yourself. I mean, I look a lot younger now than I did, even like from 10 years ago. If you see before and after pictures of 10 years ago, it's very different. Yeah. Yeah.
I can feel him working on me. Like he's talking, but he's also working on me. And I'm not kidding. I can feel him doing it.
Yeah.
He's very gifted. He's working on me. And I'm finding myself very relaxed and taking breaths and he's telling me to put my hand on my, he's talking, but he's also talking to me in here because we've done work together.
Yeah.
And I feel very relaxed and I know he's doing it. Like I'm aware of him playing around.
Huh.
Well, that's just, I mean, I love the way you said that, Rachel, but as beings, we're always like sending out information and retrieving information, because we're always studying our reality and going, what's the best reality for me today so I can thrive? Does that make sense? It's our natural. So my presence is maybe a bit stronger, maybe a lot stronger than most individuals, where it's like people go, oh shit, that guy figured it out. How do I copy that pattern? Not me, but how do I copy that pattern of, say, being healing myself?
Well, you do have an energy about you. I mean, I could feel it. Even though we're on Zoom, I don't know if you're feeling this, Rachel, Molly.
It's
obviously,
so strong.
Like I feel something in my stomach, and I'm like, is it psychosomatic? Because I will tell you, whenever I've had a procedure, MASATI, I'm always the one in the hospital where they put the IV on, and I'll say, oh, I'm starting to grow, and they'll say, ma'am, we just put in the salt water, so I'm a placebo girl. So I don't know if it's that, but like I was once at the Western Wall, and there was this like buzzing energy, and I'm not getting the buzz, but it's a feeling energy that I'm getting that was akin to what I felt in Jerusalem.
Yeah. And people will feel it, differently. So I was on stage, and I was working on a person on stage, and later on, and they transformed. They literally like shifted instantly. But later on, somebody came up to me and was like, "Hey, MASATI, when you were working on this person, I saw, Jesus behind you, healing this person." And I'm going, "Oh, thank you so much. Such an honor, And then somebody else came up, literally the exact same event, but he was, this guy was of a Buddhist, say, tradition. It's like, when you were working on that person, I saw Buddha behind you working on this person. So it's like how we, receive, or how we, see the actual code of what's behind, so.
Well, I'm curious, when you are working with people or working on people, healing, however the best way to describe it is this something that's draining for you, or does it energize you? Like how are you feeling when you're doing these things?
Oh, I feel great. Because I don't use my energy, and that's what for like practitioners out there, the healing mastery that we do, we help teach healers to heal properly, not of your energy, because that's how you drain. And just think, like, my frequency, say, like most healers, what they do is like, here, let me help you, especially if you're an empath, you'll take on other people's burdens. So even mentors, say, I worked with this client, he became a millionaire from this mentor, but he also became alcoholic because his mentor was alcoholic.
Oh,
because we pick up not just the teachings of the people that we learn from, but everything about them. So what I do is like, okay, this is me. What you want is the teachings that I have, the knowledge that I have, access, and that's all you get. And then it puts it into your flavor, and this is where people get massive results. And I teach people to do that, where you're not just sending out all your stuff there, just like what's beneficial for you. And that's where you get to feel, say, comfortable with healing yourself.
Cool. Okay. Village idiot here. You said that you're not a psychic, and I understand that. But what can you give us what's the difference between what you do and what people and a psychic? What is the difference?
So I mean, I can read you, Holly. I can see, what happened to you and so on like that. What kind of like twisted your path into where you are today, especially around like 12, 13. And we can maybe talk behind or on a private. I'd love it, kind of clear that up for you. So that would be like, say, considered psychic abilities. But psychics, the big difference is psychics just project into the future. They basically see where you are and they go, oh, in 5 years, because they have ability to transcend time, so to speak, for that person. They go, in 5 years, this is what's going to happen for you. So it's just that piece. Okay.
Okay.
So it's just, so it goes back to Einstein's, concept where, an object stays in motion in a straight path unless there's another object. So basically psychics, they could be right, they could be wrong, but they're just seeing one version or one possibility of your path. You've got plenty. Right? So what I do, I see your algorithms. Just like, say, Facebook and Google and AI, they read your algorithms. Like, for example, like Facebook, they check the posts that you read, what you shop, they take your credit card purchases and all that, and they turn it into an algorithm, and they can tell what you're going to buy in the future. Make sense? So I read your algorithm, your patterns of what created you, right? And where you are today. And you go, oh, based on your algorithms, of the past, your present, these are the possibilities that are available for you. Okay? So I see more than just one possibility. And then what I do is like, wait a second, these aren't the best possibilities based on your previous algorithms, right? Why don't we do this? Why don't we change your past? And then your present identity of who you are in the multidimensional realm changes, and the possibilities of what you could be, your potential, changes, and then you have a very different future.
So you reverse things? Is that what you mean? Like you go back to when Molly was 12 and change?
Yes, because it does go into the multidimensional realm. Yeah, so I don't change you at the present moment because that's like duct tape.
Right.
I help you change back here, like what happened.
Your perception or your...
No. Say, for example, like say when two, and this could be you, Molly, two, your mom had a tough time. Let's just say with realities, okay? Kind of say nervousness, or maybe, a lot of tension, anxiety when you were 2, okay? So basically that you pick that up. And then that was the filter. So you're on your line, and then mom had, say, some breakdown or whatever, a lot of tension, anxiety, whatever that could be. And then it's like, oh, mom, and then your path, instead of going straight, just went deflected to another version. So you kind of run from, say, that anxiousness deep down inside for some reason. You're always kind of nervous, especially about your, you have 3 kids? 1, 2?
2. I have 3 dogs.
I just see a third one. Might have lost one or something. But anyway, especially about your youngest one, you there's that nervousness or worried about it. So that literally is a duplicate of what your mom did for you. You're running that pattern, if that makes sense for you. So it's okay. So as we speak about this, sweetie, I'm just, kind of cleaning all that stuff up for you.
Well, it's bizarre because I texted Sheri last night because my son cried himself to sleep, my youngest.
Yeah.
Because he's starting to recognize he's got ADD, if you want to put a label to it. And He was so upset because it's Fun Friday and he only gets 15 minutes because he couldn't listen to the teacher. And, he's noticing that he doesn't eat as well as other kids. He calls himself odd, and it just broke my heart. And I told Sheri that. So that's just crazy that you said that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no worries, sweetie.
Sorry.
And it's good to get it out. I mean, Rachel's son.
Same thing, my kid.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I talked to him.
Yes, Mazzotti helped my little one.
So cute.
Oh,
I couldn't help but let me just talk to the kid.
so much, Molly. You gotta. I'm not even joking. It was incredible. My little one has so many issues, and ADD is so much one. And he wanted to meet. He said, "Well, let me talk to him." And I was like, well, you can try. And I sat him down. I was like, you just get up and walk away. It's just it's so hard. And the teacher, he's in 3rd grade. And the teacher said to me this year, I don't think he's going to pass. And I was like, no, because my kid is like going to be 10 and he's in 3rd grade. And I'm like, we did the COVID skip a year. We can't afford to fail a whole grade. He's way too old as it is. So MASATI talked to him one evening, and this was that December, MASATI?
I don't know. I don't think
anyway,
because I'm not.
Yeah. I want to say maybe that was like December. And so anyway, and the other thing that Cooper was having trouble with some kids at school that were bullying, and same way making him feel and Cooper really doesn't doesn't really like people or other kids. And anyway, the next day, and I'm not even joking, my kid is totally had a turnaround. I'm gonna show you. I'll show you.
Yeah, she was cracking me up. She said the next day the teacher called, and I'll let her tell you, but it was a 180.
Man. Oh, look at that.
Wow. So proud of Cooper. He's
wonderful.
You see so much potential in kids, but then, you just tweak them just a tiny bit. It literally is just a little tweak. So even for your son.
Straight A's.
Yeah.
He went from failing the grade to not just getting straight A's, but they give you like dojo points or whatever. And my phone gets alerted. And you basically get a JoJo point if you're good to other kids or do something outstanding in class. I get these all day long now. And so the teacher, I went in and the teacher said, I don't know what you've done, but your child is not the same kid. So he's engaged in the class. He's helping other kids. He goes out into the front of the room and wants to participate. Wow. I mean, I'm not even joking. It's just
so beautiful.
And he joined soccer. Never wanted to do anything like that with others. Molly, I'm telling you, got to try that out.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's so easy. Kids, they're when they're really young, they're so permeable, so it just depends on what you're pouring into them. They're brilliance or the garbage of the past, like, hey, let's pour in the brilliance, buddy. Just hold on. And again, that's not an extreme story. It happens quite a bit.
Huh.
Yeah. So.
Wow. Well, so then to piggyback off of that, as a parent who sees that in their child, then you're just like, oh, well, fucking A, I got to fix myself so I can make sure he's got the right path. You said the 0 to 7 when we first started are very, very delicate ages, and he's 7. So how important do you think this is for parents to get in touch with you and use your teachings and learn about this and consume with it's very important? I would assume you're going to say yes.
Oh, absolutely. Society as a whole has to wake up. We can't create from the past, because that's what we do. We just literally recreate ourselves in a different version for the future. And this is where society breaks down. You know, technologies might rise, but humans are devolving. Which sucks, right? So in this case, the next generation with awakened kids. I mean, just think of the society we'd have. The laws, the financial systems, all that. It starts with the kids. So it's very, very, very important. And kids are getting sicker younger nowadays. Obviously it's the food systems and all that. That corruption has to get deleted. From the society. By the way, if we were a conscious society, we wouldn't do that to our own species. Like and all that for profit. There's different ways of making profit. You could make better and make a hell of a lot of profit rather than destroying. So, I mean, that's a whole different subject. But getting back to you, this is where we change societies. Like awaken kids who know their potential and know how to access their potential. So if you, like, for example, you, Holly, you change your 7-year-old, and by the way, I can work on him through you without talking about it, and you'll see changes in him later today or by tomorrow. By the way, it's kind of weird, but just observe.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, but you change him, and then he reflects back what you need to clean up, and then and then as you clean up. He goes, oh, mom's cleaning up. I need to be a better version of myself. And it's just this beautiful cycle. And this is where children don't become a sacrificial thing that that women go through. It becomes like an honoring experience of like recreating who you are. Because most mothers nowadays, it's like, I gave up my life for those kids. I stunted my whatever and this and this and this. What does that tell the kids? It's like they're worthy. It's like, well, they create societies that aren't worthy. So in a lot of the diseases, especially ADD, ADHD, social media doesn't help or anything like that. But those are all time functions, not brain functions. Like Cooper, nothing mentally wrong with him, but his brain wasn't wired or programmed to stay stable in this reality. So you just flip that switch on that he didn't get to learn, and boom, they're in time, and they go, "Holy shit!"
On a large scale, we're seeing. We talked about history repeating itself again and again, right? We're all the players, like Shakespeare said, right? And all the world's a stage. But when you were accessing the multiverse, how, if any, do you see the breaking down of all of our institutions, education, political, healthcare? Were you given any insight into why we are seeing this? Because that is a new story. It seems, or is it not?
Yeah. Although, again, I think we're looking at the effects, but is it a new story? I mean, I help people with like cancers and so on, but their cancer at 60 actually started when they were 20.
Okay.
It's just like, it just it's so in today's society, like nature is always, if you look at like thermodynamics and Newton's laws and so on like that, it's always in balance. No matter what you do in this reality, even at an atomic level, things always have to come to equilibrium. Does that make sense for you? Everything's harmony. That's how this reality works. So humans have free will. So there's a point in time, Sheri, that what happens is that nature is going straight north, and then humans are going way off. Right? Disparity eventually leads to something's got to give. It's not nature, that's not going to give, because nature knows what's going on. It's been perfected for billions of years, and it just basically goes, shit, we're way too far off. And it's like a rubber band. Once it snaps, it just goes. So it'll crush everything that's not true.
What was that?
It'll crush everything that's not true. And everything has to get reset. I mean, the LA fires, it's unfortunate, but there's a lot of memories. There's a lot of distortions. I mean, those things just get reset Earth, or, reset planets, floods, fires, whatever it is, it resets Earth. Hence, it's fresh. It's time to reset this plane, unfortunately. Humans have to.
That makes sense.
Just newness.
It's a cleansing. Yeah.
Yeah.
On a macro, not on the minutia.
Well, it affects the micro level, like we're facing now, like our institutions, financial institutions that were based on corruption. Those things can't exist anymore. In a transparent society, corruption just can't exist. That's why everything is just coming out of the surface, whether it's at a Hollywood level, political level, or even at your personal level. Every little detail of consistency is coming out for you to harmonize. So, people who are awakened, they'll go, "Gosh, thank God, God or whoever is helping me remove the distortion, so I can be free." And then some people will go, "Why is God doing this to us?" Well, you wanted a cleansing. You wanted to expand who you are. You got to take out what's not working.
It makes so much sense when you explain it. And the Akashic records, have you ever seen the Akashic records? Are they real?
Yeah. So Akashic records, they're real. Like, for example, I tap into you, and I can read your Akashic record. I guess that's what people would call it. But so there are things that are written in stone or in the sands of time that you cannot change. So, like, for example, people go, "Well, if we went back in time and killed Hitler, World War II, but that wouldn't happen." It's kind of getting off tangent. But anyway, I'll come back to your question. So you can't change what happened to you. Like, I can't change what happened to you. So that's written in the Akashic record.
You could see what happened to me?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I can see like your records, or I can
You
see.
can share it with people. I'm excited. I want to.
But and if you want. But
yeah.
The thing is that, for example, if something happened to you at a young age, that's written in your Akashic records. Got it?
Okay.
But the meaning that you attach to it is written frequency level. And that's what I work at. It's like, you can be tortured, you could be whatever, but, and then because of that, you become alcoholic or abusive, or a tyrant, or you can learn from that same experience and become a sage. So, mission of what happened to you at a physical level. So you come from a long line of brilliant women that saw the beauty and grace. There was 3, 4 generations back for you. You did have somebody that was a healer. Literally, she could literally put her hands on people and they would learn. They would be calm or heal, or that kind of frequency. You have frequency, but it's buried inside of you, and sometimes you get frustrated because, again, you see the beauty of the world, but it's like, I can't access what's hidden inside me.
Well, yeah, yes. Yes, I need your course. I definitely do. I do.
Yeah. So that'll just bring it out, because you have the potential, and those are the gifts of our previous generations, right? That should come through, but again, unfortunately, the distortions of previous generations come through more so than the gifts of previous generations. So, yeah. But those things for you, Sheri, you could just unlock, in a course, and then it's like you're connected, and there's a oneness that you've always been looking for in your spiritual journeys.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the oneness that I talked about earlier with your grandma and you. Again, that separation. So the oneness, you might go, it's a spiritual nature. I need to understand God more. It's like, no, you need to define who you are as a presence here, and then you'll expand into that oneness.
Which course would that be for anyone listening who wants to.
Well, Healing Mastery is really good for you, but
Healing. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
The 18 days of like hyper meditations, and by the 18th day, you've literally transformed. I think Rachel, have you? I think somewhat you've gone through it. I don't know.
I started
But
one. Mhm.
people change, and you've done so much work on yourself, Sheri.
I'm sorry.
You've done so much work on yourself.
I have.
Yeah.
That's like in neon in the Akashic records, like
Yeah,
overkill, woman.
I just see stacks of books and whatever that you've gone through.
Oh my God, you could see the books?
Oh, yeah. And they're good books. They might not be the most accurate books at times, so we filter out those. But there's a lot of great teachings in those books that just sits here for most people. They read a lot of books, but they can't, again, access the deep wisdom behind it.
I feel like I'm at a barrier.
Yeah. So it's like, let's take that knowledge and turn it into applicable wisdom, where you're genetically, say, running from that wisdom versus, it's just storing it up here or acting, in that sense. If that makes sense for you.
There's two conflicting, like, I didn't even know we had the healer. I don't know what else you got, and you're welcome to say it. Yeah. I'm not embarrassed. I'm very honest.
Oh no, you come actually from a clean family. There's a lot of strictness in one side, and that strictness really comes, and this is where people get messed up maybe. So on one side there's a lot of strictness or a lot of discipline, so to speak, and it might look off like that person was mean and all that, but in reality they had to do that back in the day to survive. If they weren't so strict and so persistent, almost like German type behavior, they're just what I mean, strict like that, they wouldn't survive. So and because of that, your family line is surviving. So that's, say, within your patterns. And that's another thing for you, is you might think I'm not free because I'm so restricted, but in reality, that's what's kept you safe in the past, and it does restrict. Got it? So
that's fascinating.
Yeah, things that saved you in the past become restrictions in the future for people. So, for example, in your family, I see maybe German type, or that scenario.
Oh, was I in the Holocaust?
You weren't, and neither was your family, but surrounding that, your family was very, very affected, and they had to be very, very strict or tight-lipped to feel safe. So that restriction, literally, you know what I mean? That discipline, you had to be disciplined. You had to do certain things. You had to hide your identity of who you were, for example, to survive.
Yeah.
So that was a survival mechanism. So you nowadays have to have this identity that you can't, say, unlock yourself from. If that makes sense for you.
Yeah, I do have fears that I fight all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's,
and I intellectually understand it, but I can't.
Yeah. So that's that freedom that you want. But again, it's because it gave you freedom back there. Today, it's become a restriction. If you look at anything in society, no matter how benevolent it's been, it always turns into a destructive force, because we hold on to a time value. No matter what it is, you can ask me any question or anything. It's like, what about this? It's like, yep, it's turned into a destructive force. I mean, religions, medicine, food nowadays, it's nourishing. Now, what the hell?
$8 eggs.
With nutrition, those kind of things. It's like, well, so even love has been, destroyed, and it's become a destructive force. Religion, spirituality, all those things. again, is morphed into a destructive force because we don't know how to use the power, or we've defined it in not the best way.
I don't want to get greedy here, but since we have you on the podcast, I'm sorry. This is just freaking fascinating. You mentioned something earlier with me personally, 12 to 13 years old. And is there anything that you could offer up? I'm open to.
Yeah. And I could be off because when you were younger, you had to take on a presence or the burdens of an older person, if that makes sense to you. So like at it's like 7 or 8, when you were 7 or 8, you took on the burdens, or it's almost like you took care of somebody when you were a younger child. Does that make sense? So say at 7 and 8, you didn't have, say, a complete childhood because you were taking responsibility. So you would be more of a 15, 16-year-old at 7 or 8.
I see.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So unlike a psychic, I don't see specifics, although sometimes I get that. So at 7 and 8, and at 2, again with your mom, at 7 and 8, you took on, say, the burdens of maybe a mom or a sister or an aunt type feel, or your mom might feel like an aunt or sister. Your mom doesn't feel like a mom to me. It's not. It's not hierarchical. It's not nurturing. You were more of a nurturer to your mom than vice versa. So, and then at 12, 13, 14, and again, I could be off plus minus, a year or two. But around your birthday or something, there was a friend that you nurtured, from what I'm seeing. Yeah. There's a friend that was like, say, suicidal or did you have a friend with an alcoholic parent?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm from Minnesota.
You had a friend,
and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just
I get it. But yeah, you had a friend that had alcoholic parents that you nurtured, and then you just literally got pulled into their reality, their distortion, and it took you a while to pull yourself out. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah. I'm going to think on that one.
Yeah.
Because don't you think too, with that age, you may not realize what's going on. Like you go to your friend's house and you're like, oh, wait, we do it differently. You don't, I don't know. My parents were really good at hiding stuff. Well, my mom was very good at hiding stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. That's so fascinating.
Yeah. So you go to a friend's house, and then you literally, for you, Holly, you morph into the environment that you succumb to. So if you hang out in a certain group, you would morph into that group in a very short time. If you hung out at a friend's house for over a period of time, you would morph into, say, the family vibe. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
I'll give you even an extreme version, hon.
Okay.
And just notice your hips. One hip seems like it's off from childbirth, from what I'm saying. Yeah. Anyway, we'll work on that. But say, for example, that you went into the Ku Klux Klan and you hated, what they stood for. But in a very short time, if you just hung out with them, you would morph into the identity of a Ku Klux Klan member. I'm just giving you an extreme version.
Okay.
But do you see the intensity?
I totally see what you're saying. Yes.
So
100%.
Even if you don't believe in what they believe in, if you're exposed to it long enough, right, you just have a higher propensity than most just to get sucked into it. And then you go, I don't want this. And this is where you always are pulling back. It's like you're getting pulled into something. Even if it's beneficial for you, you'll always pull back because that's how you protect yourself. Because that's what you did at 13, 14. It's like you were falling in, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I don't want that. So you just created this barrier. And this is where, not to get too intimate, but intimacy and all that stuff, there's this barrier between you and your partner. So there's just, and if that makes sense to you.
If he could have heard you say that right now, he would have gone, "Told you so."
Yeah, but it's got nothing to do with the two of you, honey. It's just that if you go in and care for somebody at a deeper level, then that means you literally have to fall into their world, and you don't want to do that. You do that with your kids as well. There's always a barrier. You can only go so far before you pull back. So it's got nothing to do with your kids. It's got nothing to do with you or how kind you are or anything like that. It's just that's the equation. I can only go to an X level of love before I pull back. Literally,
that's really sad.
It's sad, but it's simple to reset yourself.
So what would you reset if you were going to reset all of us? Like what would Molly get? What would Rachel get? Like
oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
So
let's give you. I'm sorry, I'll be quiet. I have to stop my humor.
You would actually learn the purpose of why you went to all those seminars and read all those books, because you'll feel that oneness and grandness of who you are, that complete oneness that you are. For you, Holly, you wouldn't have to always say prove yourself and push yourself, or basically pull yourself to show up as you are every day. It's that perfection that sometimes, just like you hate being so perfect sometimes because it takes a lot of work. For example, no offense, but again, you're going. But you could just do that just naturally. Where you just elegantly show up as beautiful, rather than all that work and I have to put all this aside to create this perfection here. Just oneness. And for you, Rachel, you can expand into, say, the possibilities of who you are even more. Anyway, I have another call.
Yeah.
But
thank you.
Just this was amazing. I want to make sure for both of you, Masati, if you have 10 seconds to just please tell us where we can find you. Let everybody know your handles.
Sure.
Of course, we'll put it in the show description as well.
Yeah, you can go to the xicode.com, or you can go to XI Masati on YouTube. Just look at XI Masati on YouTube or Telegram or Facebook. But on YouTube, there's a lot of great information. We do a live show. It's free. It's called Masati on Sunday. We explain, how this reality works and how to change it. So we talk about the deeper
Fantastic.
stuff. So, yeah.
Amazing. And Rachel, where can we find you?
Rachel Ann Roberts or Rachel Roberts Recipes.
Love it. Amazing. Thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
Happy New Year. Well, that's a wrap, guys. Remember, when everything's going wrong, it just means you're crafting a great story. Stay tuned for more episodes where we turn life's lemons into laughable tales. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep finding the best in the worst, because life's too ridiculous not to laugh at it.